Hello and welcome to this video by Man and Machine. My name is Chris, I'm the Technical Manager on the MFG side, and today we're going to be covering iLogic forms in factory design assets. So you may or may not have noticed, but we now have the availability of using iLogic forms directly in our factory asset properties. So I'm going to show you how that works. So to start off, let's have a look at how it was before we had the availability. So if I go and place one of our standard system assets, in this case I'm using a straight belt conveyor, and on placing it and I go and have a look at my factory properties, of course we have the ability to modify parameters directly here. So for example, if I go and change the height of this, we can see that the height updates and we have various options. So we do have some availability of iLogic rules. I'm not 100% sure this one works with iLogic, but there are smarter things we can do other than simple parametric updates. For example, I can move it to the center left in terms of my motor, and we'll see that little motor switch sides over on the conveyor. So there is the availability for some smart parametrics, some iLogic within our factory assets. And what we now have the ability to do is, and I'll just place another asset over here, and this is one I've created, or at least one of my colleagues has created, and I place that, and if we select this one, we will see that we have an iLogic form. So instead of being able to actually edit and clicking on it, you can see that I can't actually do any editing there. But if I click on Open iLogic Form, we have a form that we can drive this model with, and it works in much the same way thereafter. If I go and change my length, you can see that it updates, and I don't know, let's try the turn the hanger off, for example. We can see so some of the iLogic rules for suppression and such also taking part. Now on this particular form, you can see that it's set up to directly update on each parameter input that I add. Let's see if we can fix that up. So in order to publish an asset with one of these iLogic forms built in, it's pretty easy to do. And I've got a very simple model. In this case, I've just gone and made myself a CNC block placement, or at least placeholder. So if we were starting out on a new layout and we didn't have the exact CNC machine or size that we needed, we could then use this as a representation until such time as we can acquire the model and actually publish a factory asset. Nonetheless, it's a very simple model. It's nothing fancy. It's just a simple extrusion with some parameters built in to drive it, depth, width, and height. If I go ahead and create an iLogic form, so just on the iLogic, and just to show you there are no rules in this particular model, it's just a simple part model with parametrics. If I go and add a new form, so it's popped up on the screen, let's bring that over, bring my form projection. So I'm going to create a very simple form. I'm just going to use my 3 drivable parameters and drop them in there. And selecting the form, I will go ahead and change it from a predefined, change my predefined buttons rather to OK, cancel, and apply. This means with the apply button that it won't directly apply the parameters as I'm typing them, and I can do multiple and then send them all off at once for an update rather than have them update each time I hit tab or click to the next parameter. Now the big catch really, and the only important bit to get our form in, to be accepted as when we create this as a factory asset, is to name it correctly. So we call it factory design properties is what we call it. So giving the label of factory design properties, not with any funny characters, and hitting OK. So that's our form. If we click it, up does the updating, and off we go. So then I could just go through the normal asset publish process. So I'll just quickly define a landing surface for this. Of course, we could do all the other fancy bits to it if we needed to have connectors and all the other things. My landing surface is already defined in OK in this case. So I'm not going to cover all the rest of the factory asset publishing tools or the tools that we have, but if you are interested, we have other videos available covering those sort of topics. Nonetheless, let's go ahead and publish our asset at this stage. Wait for the menu to pop up on the wrong screen as it's been doing all day. And we will then go ahead and save this asset. So I know I saved one earlier, so I'm going to put it in my test file and I'm going to call it CNC block 1 and hit OK and just let that asset publish to my library. Shouldn't take too long, as there's not too much to it, and there's not multiple variants, so we're not using the variant option in this case, just open parameters. So if I come back to my main layout that I have, I can go and just refresh and find that new asset in my tests folder. Just lost it. Right, so we got the CNC block 1. As I said, there was one from earlier. And if I place that, just get rid of my menu and select, we can see that it now has an iLogic form, open iLogic form anyway. And because I did mark those parameters as key as well, they do show here. So I quite like them to still show even though we can't edit them. And as a word of warning, if you are planning to use the forms to drive your either iLogic or just parametric factory assets, bear in mind that the form will not work on the AutoCAD side. So if you're wanting to use this workflow, you would then be sizing up your models or changing the parametrics of them on the inventor side and not so much on the AutoCAD side, which I tend to prefer anyway, especially if it's a more complex assembly like this bench over here, as it just tends to be a bit quicker on the inventor side. So I hope that's been helpful, and see you again soon.